Hey y'all, I'm Terry.
And I'm Heather.
We are the Burlesons.
And this is the More Than Able podcast.
On this week's episode, we're going to share a little bit of our story and how we met.
So, how we met.
A bit of our story, man.
How did we meet? Do you remember?
Yes, I remember.
It was a while ago.
It was almost 17 years ago. Well, it was over 17 years ago. We met on a blind date.
We could say the year. It was 2006.
Yep. So
it's a very long time ago.
Over 18 years ago, we met. And like I said, we've been married for 17 years. But 18 years ago, we met June 27th, 2006. Mm-hmm. See, I remember the date of even our first date.
The specific date. Good job.
And it was a date that I almost did not go on.
Yeah. So who set us up?
A mutual, how did you say that? I had a friend that I knew when I was in high school that we ended up becoming we weren't roommates, but he lived in one side of a duplex, then I lived in the other side. He was a very good friend of mine, Wade Decker. If you're listening, Wade, hi. And he has an older sister named Amy. Hi, Amy.
Hi, Amy. Hope you're listening.
So Amy and Wade both knew Heather, and I knew Wade, and I knew of Amy. I didn't know her like I do now. And she had sent you a message.
She actually had called me. I was visiting my sister. My sister lived in Springfield, Missouri, and I was visiting her for the weekend. And I was actually at a friend's house up there, and we were going to go out, and my phone rang, and it was Amy. And she was like, hey, would you be interested in meeting a guy?
I don't know that you've ever actually told me the details of this conversation. How did that... Wait a minute. Let me ask you this. Were you at a friend's house, or was this a boyfriend's house?
No. It was a friend. It was a girl. It was a friend. So she called me, and she was like, hey, would you be interested in meeting a guy? And she didn't give me any details. I was like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't care.
Have anything to lose. I'm single. And she actually told me I had a couple of stipulations, a couple standards, if you will, when it comes to, who I was going to date. And I was like, they can't smoke.
Which I did.
And they can't have been married before.
Which I had been. And
so she knew those things. And she told me, she's like, he does smoke and he has been married before.
So
and
judgmental.
I was like, okay. And I was
threw her standards right out the window. She hadn't even seen me, and she's like, "Sure."
It was God. I wasn't really following God that closely at the time, but it was God. He was speaking to me. And so she gave my phone number to her brother to give to Terry. Yeah. And he called me.
I called her, and
on a Tuesday evening.
No, it was a Wednesday. It was a Wednesday night because we were doing. I was helping with youth.
Okay. At
the time, with the church that I was going to. And Wade said, hey, I've got this girl's number that my sister wants to give to me, to give to you, and wanted to set you up. And I was like, okay, sure. Well, a little backstory to that week, the previous week for me, I had just been on a blind date from another buddy of mine, and it went horrible. Well, I don't want to say it went horrible. It just... When I got home from the date, I asked the guy, I was like, what were you thinking? Because she was nowhere near a person
not your type.
Not my type at all. But I was like, okay, if I'm going to do this, because the first one I went all out. I was like, let's go have dinner, and we'll go to a movie. And like I had this big extravagant date planned out, and I should, which like I said, I'd never done a blind date before, so I didn't know what you should and shouldn't do on a blind date. So I called Heather, and we were on the phone for 30 seconds, maybe a minute. I doubt it was that long of a conversation. I introduced myself and told her who I knew and who gave me her number. And I asked her, I was like, you just want to go and get coffee? And I think it was the next week that I was like, let's just go get coffee.
Our first date was on a Tuesday.
Yes.
That's where the Tuesday
comes in. That was our first date. Our first date was a cup of coffee.
And I remember sending Amy a message after he had called me and said, how old did you say this guy was? Because so Terry and I are the same age. He's just a few months older than I am. But his voice was so deep. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, did she set me up with some old dude? because he sounded way older than me. And she told me he was the same age as I was. And so, it was fine. But yeah, we just set up where to meet and what time. And that was the gist of the conversation. And then we met.
And I had a backup plan because, like I said, the previous experience did not go well. And so Wade, I don't know if he remembers this or not, but I had told him to call me about 30 minutes into the date with a
escape
plan. Yeah, if things were going to go badly. And I remember when he called me and things were going really well, but I was like, I got to answer the phone call, otherwise he's going to call me back. And so I told Heather, I said, give me a second, I'm going to take this phone call. And I think I might have walked off to the bathroom or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I told him, I said, no, man, it's going really great. And so the funny thing is we met at a coffee shop. And when I got there, did I tell you what I was going to drive? Because at the time I had a motorcycle and a car.
I don't know. I think, no, you did. Because I think you had asked me if I liked motorcycles or something along those lines.
See, I was already trying to impress you. I was like, I'm going to take my motorcycle. But when I got there, she wasn't there yet, so I was just standing out near my bike, and I still remember to this day. She kind of parked across the parking lot a little ways away from me, and she got out of the car, and my first thought was, there is no way this is her. She is so far out of my league. This woman is gorgeous. She's not going to want anything to do with me.
And it's funny because I remember pulling up in my car and getting out and walking up, and I think maybe you had told me basically what you were going to be wearing, and so I seen you standing outside and I knew it was you. But whenever I seen him, I was like, oh my God, this guy's so hot. Like, I was like, he is way out of my league. He's looking for somebody that's like, which I have blonde hair, but I was like, he's going to want a blonde hair, tall, like super skinny girl, which looking back, I was super skinny then too. I didn't think I was at the time, but
blonde hair, blue eyed, super skinny girl. That's who you were, babe. You were a blonde haired, blue eyed, skinny girl.
Well, our perspectives change over time, but I thought he was so far out of my league. And I think we shook hands when we met.
We shook hands,
which is so funny to think about. It's weird whenever you've known someone for so long and you think back to a time when you didn't know them.
When you didn't kiss them multiple times when you leave or you get home.
And so, like, shaking your hand now would be so weird and awkward. But, we shook hands, and I don't know if we really said a lot, and we went and ordered our drinks and sat down, but then we just talked.
We just started talking. Well, and it was one of those things where I think I was so on edge about, you were gorgeous. You still are. But it was one of those things, I didn't know how it was going to go. Like, I didn't know you. I didn't know anything about you. Like, I didn't ask a bunch of questions. I didn't ask for details. It was just like, oh, I'm going on this blind date.
Yeah.
But yeah, we went in, ordered, and I paid for coffees, and then we sat down, and I remember where we sat down. We sat in the corner booth, and this coffee shop had a super tall red velvet booth.
It's probably still there. If you're in Bentonville and you know of Kennedy Coffee, then you probably know exactly what we're talking about.
Kennedy Coffee. That was our first date.
Bentonville, Arkansas, that is.
Yeah. I don't know if there's another one out there.
I don't know either.
But we sat down and we just started talking, getting to know each other.
Yeah. We probably talked about just about everything under the sun.
Yeah. I'm sure we did.
It was just constant conversation.
So we sat there, I don't know, a couple hours and talked. Much like I said, Wade had called me, and I was like, no, man, everything's going great. Like, I don't need an out. And I think maybe you had an idea of that's what the phone call was about. Thinking maybe. But then I think I thought, do people really do that? Like, that's something that you would see on a movie or something? Do people really do that? I didn't do that. I can speak from... Okay. Anyways. But we didn't have any plans going forward. And so after a couple hours sitting there talking, I was like, okay, this is going really well. And I'm hungry. So I was like, you want to go get some dinner? And at the time, like I said, I had my motorcycle. So I was like, do you want to ride with me on my motorcycle and we'll just go to dinner? And you were like,
heck yeah.
Yeah. And she did. She jumped on some dude's motorcycle that she had never met. She'd only known for 2 hours. I could have taken her anywhere. Some motorcycle dude. But we went to dinner. We went to Applebee's. No, it was Ruby Tuesdays.
Ruby Tuesday.
I always do that. Always.
It's not even there anymore.
It's not even there anymore. Nope, there's like a Valvoline oil change
so
or
sad.
something. But so we went to dinner, and you were wearing a light teal shirt.
I still have that shirt.
Some like big flowers on it.
Let it be known I don't wear that shirt. It is really small. It's in a keepsake box.
I don't remember what I was wearing. Guys don't think about that kind of stuff. But what I do remember is when we went to dinner, she ordered like a red pasta of some sort. And I remember you telling me that you were so nervous that you were going to get it.
After I ordered my pasta,
shirt.
I was like, what did I do? Why did I order this on a first date? What am I doing?
It's funny because if you know Heather the way I know Heather, and I give her a hardest time about it, she is messy when it comes to eating. And I always tell her, I can't take you anywhere. She's always getting something on her shirt. Always. And so I know exactly where her head was at that point as she's sitting there. And she's talked about how she was trying to be so proper about not slurping up her spaghetti sauce so she didn't get it all over her. But we did. We had a great time. We ate dinner, and we probably sat there for, I don't know, maybe another hour or so. Again, just talking until we were blue in the face. And don't take this next part wrong.
Everybody always does.
Everybody does. That's why I'm prefacing this. But I asked her if she wanted to come back to my apartment. And all these places were within 5 minutes of each other.
Yeah.
And so I'm a gentleman. I wasn't trying to do anything, nor did I try to do anything.
Nope.
But we went back to my apartment, and she was blown away at how clean my apartment was.
Yeah, it was very clean. I walked into his apartment, and I was like, oh, my God, he's gay. Why are we on a date?
No, I am not.
I don't think I actually thought he was gay, but that was a thought that crossed my mind because, that's so that's so judgmental. I'm not a judgmental person. I'm saying things on here I probably shouldn't.
No, we're being...
But anyways, so yeah, it was a very, very clean apartment. And
well, I lived alone.
It's just because he's
all
bored
I did
all
was
the time.
work. I didn't have cable TV. I didn't have a lot of money. So I didn't have anything to do. And so... my apartment was always clean.
Yeah. He still likes clean things. He's a bit of a neat freak.
I'm better
he just
than
likes
I used
a
to
clean
be.
house. He's made me a cleaner person.
I do like a clean house. It makes for a stress-free environment.
Yeah. But we went back to his apartment. He had, I think what actually got us to the point where we went back to his apartment because he had been telling me about his experience of going to New Orleans to help with the hurricane relief efforts when he was a volunteer firefighter, and so his fire department went down there to help with the cleanup. And he was telling me about pictures that he had. He had a whole picture album of all of these things. Back when you printed pictures out and you put them in a physical photo album
and you had
flipped
to pay
them.
to see your photos.
And
that's how long ago it was. You had to take photos and then hope they turned out.
You
and
had to get them developed.
Yeah, and pay and hope that the photos look good.
And so he had those pictures at his house, and he wanted me to go back and look through them. And so that's what we did. I went to his apartment, and we sat there and looked through the pictures, and he told me all the stories about all these places that he's seen and just some of the crazy things that he's seen there. And we just, again, talked about so many things, and he showed me all his tattoos, and
See, now you're talking like I'm taking my clothes off, and
you did take your shirt off.
I took my shirt off.
You did take your shirt off.
I did take my shirt, but I put it back on. She thought I was gonna have back hair.
Oh, we're gonna go there.
We are. Hey, we said as a bit of our story. Okay, so if you don't know me, I have a hairy chest.
He's Hairy Terry.
Yeah, I have had a nickname of Hairy Terry since junior high. And so, of course, I showed her the tattoos on my arms, and I showed her tattoos on my chest.
And his chest was really hairy. And that was not... we were young. We were 20.
I was 21.
You had just
20,
turned 21, and I was about to turn 21. And so, not a lot of guys that age have a lot of body hair. They're just fresh little babies.
Because they're boys, they're not men.
And so he lifted his shirt up to show me his tattoos. People are going to listen to this and be like, oh my gosh, what did I get into? What am I listening to?
I thought this was a God-centered podcast.
So he lifted his shirt up to show me his tattoos on his chest, and I was like, oh my God, that's a lot of hair. And then he told me he had a tattoo on his back, like in the top part of his back. And so he went to lift his shirt up, and in my mind, this is happening in slow motion. Like, he's lifting his shirt up in slow motion, because in my mind, I'm like, oh my God, he's going to have a hairy back, and I don't know that I can deal with a hairy back, because I don't know that that's that attractive.
She couldn't deal with smoking or a divorced man or a hairy back. But I'm still here.
And so he lifted his shirt up to show me this tattoo, and by the grace of God, he did not have a hairy back.
I don't know that the grace of God has anything to do with body hair, but okay.
But yeah.
Well, and I think we sat there for, I don't know, probably a couple more hours. It was close to midnight.
Yeah, and I think you finally were like, yeah, so I have to get up really early.
I had to be at work at 6. So I should probably take you back to your car.
So
I did.
He did.
I took her back up to your car.
He hugged me, and that was it. He didn't try to kiss me. He didn't try to get fresh with me at all. Like, he was very much a gentleman. And I walked away feeling refreshed, I think. I was like, wow. Like, you know, it was very uncommon to go on a date with a guy and them not try to, at the very least, kiss you at the end of the night. Like, they had earned that or something. And so it was very refreshing to, you know, go on a date and not feel like I had to do something that I didn't really want to do, that I wasn't really comfortable to do. And I was super looking forward to spending more time with you.
Yeah, and I think we spent...
Well, you invited me to church the next night.
Oh,
that's
right.
how I remember that our first date was a Tuesday night, because you invited me to go to youth.
It was kind of funny because I think I had said something about... You had said something about getting together the next night, and I said I had church.
Because you were helping with the youth group.
I think you kind of invited yourself, but I invited you at the same time. But yeah, you went to church with me that next night, and we seen each other every night for the next...
He did kiss me the next night.
I did. I think I dropped you off. I think I come over and picked you up.
You kissed me on my doorstep.
And I dropped you off, and I gave you a kiss. But again, I wasn't being handsy. I was just...
No.
It was
a nice kiss,
a nice
though.
kiss, yeah.
We won't go into details.
They don't need to know that. But we spent, I think, every night for the next 2 weeks. We seen each other.
Oh, yeah.
And then I ended up going on a trip with our youth group to Daytona. I was one of the chaperones. And so I was gone for, I don't know, a week.
Yeah, I think you were gone for a week. And that was our first time away from each other since we had met.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, when you came back, I think we were together again.
Just nonstop.
Every day.
Yeah.
And
I don't know that we ever actually had a conversation of like, are we going steady? Is this
right?
serious?
Are we boyfriend girlfriend? You want to go out? Like, yeah, it was just like, if somebody asked me, well, when did you guys get together? I would say June 27th, 2006. That was our first date. Like, that's when we got together. And like, that was when we met, but that's also when I perceive us as being together, because we never, like, we were just together after that.
Well, neither of us were dating people.
Yeah. Like I didn't have to break up with somebody to, you know,
or say, hey, I can't see you no more. I've found somebody else.
Yeah.
And which, you know, I had dated a couple people and I'd gone on another blind date, but nothing ever serious. And like Heather said, you know, I had previously been married for a year, maybe, which at the point we met, I was still going through my divorce. It wasn't finalized. And so that's a whole nother story we can get into some other time. But yeah, we did. We pretty much, I don't know, a lot of people don't like peanut butter and jelly, but we are peanut butter and jelly. We were always together everywhere we went. On Sundays, I met your parents pretty quick.
Yeah, I think within the first couple of weeks. I think it was before you went to Daytona, maybe.
We went to Bikes, Blues, and Barbecue. Is that when I met them? We went to dinner first.
No, that wasn't. We had went to dinner with them when you met them for the first time, because Bikes, Blues, and Barbecue was a few months later.
Oh, okay.
But we went to dinner with them. I think we rode your motorcycle and they rode theirs, and my
Danny
uncle was there.
And Debbie were there too.
And they rode their motorcycles, so we all rode
pretty
over
quick,
together.
I met your parents, which they lived close to. They were probably 20 minutes from where we lived. My parents, on the other hand, they were about 2 hours from where we lived. So I don't know how quickly you met my parents, but
I do. It was in August. We met in June, and I met them in August because we went there for a weekend,
Yeah.
an entire weekend. So if they hated me, it was going to be a
You
really
were stuck.
long weekend.
But
I was terrified.
I think even before you went to meet them, I had already told my mom that I was like, Mom, I'm going to marry this woman.
Yeah, because then she was like, you better back it
You
up,
better
little boy.
slow down, young man. Yeah, because I remember I was at work, and I called her. She called me because I was still running equipment at the time. And I said, Mom, I'm going to marry this woman. And she's like, no, you're not. You're not even divorced yet, son. But I just knew. There was something in me, and I just knew that, like, this was who God had for me. Which, my relationship with God then, compared to what it is now, was nothing,
Mm-hmm.
But I still knew there wasn't a doubt in my mind that we were gonna get married, or I was at least gonna ask you.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, we within a month and a half.
I had my doubts.
Whatever. She did.
There-
Actually, she did have her doubts.
I had a lot of my stuff in his apartment because I was there all the time. So I had stuff kept there.
Yeah, you had
and
bathroom stuff there and clothes there. And
yeah. And so I had, before Terry, I had been in what I would have considered back then a long-term relationship. It lasted like a year.
Mm-hmm.
And I had only been out of that relationship for maybe maybe 6 months. But me and that guy, I think we had still talked some. So I had only been not, really in that relationship for probably a few months. And that breakup was really hard on me and stuff. And so I felt really hard for Terry. I felt really fast for him. And I started having a lot of these fears of, oh my gosh, what if this is a rebound relationship? Because I had heard stories about, when you come out of a relationship where, you felt like you loved the person and then you rebound into someone else's arms and it's like you have all these feelings, but they're not real.
Yeah.
And so I, of course, being young, I'm like, I didn't know if that's what it was. I didn't know if my feelings were real or if it was a rebound thing. And so I went to his apartment one day after work, and I just packed up all my
And I wasn't home.
I packed up all my stuff that I had at his house and took it back to my house. And I think I might have left you a note.
And I come home and find this note and all her stuff is gone. And I was like, what did I do? And it was like, I felt like it was over.
Yeah.
Like that's how I felt. Was like, what in the world? Why is she gone? Like, what happened?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like you said, it was
just fear.
Yeah.
I think it was feelings that I hadn't ever really felt before, and it was scary. And I think I probably only stayed away for maybe a day or two.
Yeah, we
before
talked
I was
that
like
day.
bringing stuff
And
back over.
she
to his
explained
house.
what she was doing and why she had taken her stuff,
Yeah.
which we hadn't been together for maybe 2 months at that
it
point.
was very new still.
And so she wasn't living with me, but she was there all the time, or I was at her place until, again, super late.
Yeah.
And
it was a very fast moving relationship. I mean, I think you told me you loved me after a week. And I remember you sending me a message while I was at work saying that you had something to tell me that night. And I remember messaging my mom, and I was like, I think he's going to tell me that he loves me. And I remember her asking me if that was what I wanted. And I was like, yeah, because I was feeling it too. But then I got scared and
then she
nearly ran away.
No, you did. You did run away.
I came back.
It was maybe for a day or two, but you did
I went to
run
my
away.
own house. And so, and then we got back, well, not back together. We didn't break up. But, I brought my stuff back over to his house, and, we just picked right back up where we left off the day before.
Well, and you were living with a friend, and the living situation wasn't great. And I had said something along the lines of, if you're so miserable there, why don't you just move in with me?
Mm-hmm.
You're already here all the time anyways.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I even remember there'd be times where I'm like, well, let me drive you home because it's so late. I don't want you to fall asleep. But you lived like 5 minutes away.
Yeah.
But she moved in, I don't know.
It was after just a couple months. It was probably shortly after that whole me getting scared. And so we maybe had been together for 3-ish months.
Yeah.
If that.
And I think within a month of that, we got a place together. We had gotten...
We moved. He lived in a 1-bedroom, and we moved into a 2-bedroom for appearances.
Yes. Sorry, Mom and Dad. Yeah, it was totally for appearances. Like I said, my relationship with God then was not what it is now. And so, no, I was not living right for the Lord. But, yeah, we did. We got a place of... And it was ours. Like, the 1-bedroom was mine, and you were staying there. But the 2-bedroom was our place. And November of that year, I had told my mom, I said, I'm going to marry this woman, and I'm going to marry her. I said, I'm going to ask her to marry me. And Thanksgiving of 2006.
You asked my dad, right, for my hand?
Yes, I did. Actually, I asked both your parents.
I think you went to...
We had gone over there,
house.
And I want to say your sister was in town, and she was trying to keep you, like, occupied in the back of the house with something. And I was sitting at the dining room table with your mom and dad, because I was like, how am I going to meet her mom and dad at her house and not go with me? But, yeah, I did. I'd asked them for your hand in marriage, which I don't remember exactly how that conversation went. I'm sure my heart was probably beating a mile a minute. But we had spent a lot of time around your mom and dad. Like, we would go over there on Sundays, and I remember doing barbecues in the backyard. But I had messaged your mom through Facebook or something and said that I wanted to sit down and talk to them. Oh, it wasn't a message. It was like on my Facebook page or on her Facebook page where everybody could see it. Because
Are you talking about how I found out?
Yeah, how you found out. Yes. So
no, this was on MySpace.
What? Oh, MySpace. Oh man, Facebook wasn't
So,
even around. That's how long ago this was, people. Facebook was not even around. Yes, it was MySpace.
Okay, so on MySpace, you had your wall, kind of like on Facebook, and you could write things on it, and you had been talking back and forth with one of your friends. I don't know, it was a friend from Indiana or something. I don't remember who it was exactly, but you guys were having a conversation on your wall, and you had told him, I'm going to propose to Heather on Thanksgiving with all of our family there. And I saw it because it was public on your wall, and I was like...
So when I popped the question, it was not a popping of the question.
Well,
she knew it was coming.
And I didn't know what to do with the information. I was like, "Oh my gosh, do I tell him? Do I tell him that I know that he's gonna propose to me? Do I keep it to myself?" And I was like, "I don't want to ruin the surprise." Like, I had all the thoughts going through my head, and so I made the wrong choice and decided not to tell him that I knew that he was going to propose to me on
until years.
And let's later reference back to our last episode about transparency. That is an instance where I should have been transparent in what I knew.
And told me.
And so I did know that he was going to propose to me that day. I tried my hardest to act surprised. I think I actually didn't tell you that I knew you were going to propose to me that day until just like a few years ago.
Yeah, that's why I said
like
years.
It came up in conversation or something. I was like, oh yeah, by the way.
It was before I had re-proposed to you.
Okay. Yeah.
Or
yeah.
maybe right after I had re-proposed to you.
So it's been a little while ago.
Yeah. So, I mean, that we renewed our vows in 2018.
Yeah.
So that was 5 years ago. So, like we said in the beginning, we've been together for almost 18 years.
Over 18.
Over 18 years.
Yeah.
So, yes. Almost 10 years it took you to tell me.
Yeah.
That you knew.
Yeah.
But, yes. So... we had Heather's family and my family to our apartment for Thanksgiving Day, and 6 months into our relationship, I popped the question. Mm-hmm. And obviously she had plenty of time to think about it because she knew it was coming. And, of course, she said yes. And we have a photo of when she said yes and we were hugging.
Yeah.
And then, so we were 5 months in. We got engaged.
6.
June.
Was it 5? 6?
It was 5 because
and then 6 months later,
we got married. So 11 months total from the time we met, we got married.
Yeah.
And it went fast. It went super fast. And it was like a whirlwind. Like, I remember trying to plan, which your sister had just gotten married that year.
Yeah, she actually got married in the beginning of November. So, like, the beginning of November, and then so closer to the end of November is when you proposed to me.
Yeah.
So my parents had to pay for 2 weddings within 6 months of each other.
And, so
And my sister and I are 6 years apart. My sister is 6 years older than me, and so I'm sure they
Took her long
never.
enough. Jeez.
I'm sure they never imagined in a million years that their kids, who are 6 years apart, would get
Would get
married
married
within
the
6
same
months
year.
of each other.
No,
So,
again,
you're welcome,
sorry, Mom and Dad. But yeah, we did. We were married within less than a year,
Mm-hmm.
and it was kind of funny because her dad in the very beginning couldn't remember if my name was Larry or Terry.
I think he knew. He just liked to give you a hard time.
He still likes to give
He
me a
liked
hard
to
time.
call you Larry instead of Terry.
But so much so that on our wedding day, again, this was a long time ago. This was back when churches had the big light up signs outside the building where you had to like manually put letters into it to spell something out. And so on one side of the sign of the church, it said, "Congratulations, Heather and Terry." And on the other side of the sign, it said, "Congratulations, Heather and Larry."
Yeah.
And we actually have a photo of that.
Yeah. We were standing by it laughing, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. But so that's how we met. That's kind of our story part 1, I guess you'd say.
Yeah.
And so
At least how we met.
yeah.
There's
There's so much more to our story,
absolutely.
but I think, of all the things that's happened over the years, I think it's still always my favorite story to tell, just because there's I love it. Like it's our love story, how we met. It's our,
Yeah.
I mean,
blind date.
our whole marriage is a
years.
love story, but it's one of those stories that,
It's the Hallmark love story.
yeah, it really, I love telling people that we met on a blind date, because it's not, typical,
Oh.
and I think,
Especially nowadays, you're like, "How'd you meet?" "Oh, online."
yeah, right.
That's so boring. Sorry, y'all. If you met online, I'm sorry, but that's such a boring story. How'd y'all meet? Match.com, farmersonly.com. I'm like, that's such a sad story. I'm sorry.
It's not sad. It's still beautiful.
It's just the day and age we live in, I guess.
Yeah. But I love our blind date story. I love how we met, and so I love to tell that story.
Yeah.
And
it's
so
a fun story to tell.
I hope that you guys enjoyed listening to it as well.
And maybe there wasn't a whole lot in this episode that was encouraging or beneficial
No,
or
probably
helped
not.
you, but we definitely wanted to share about how we met.
Yeah.
We want to share about who we are, what we come from,
Mm-hmm.
what we've walked through, what we're walking through. And so we figure we might have a couple episodes on just our story, not just us, but also our family, our kids.
Well, and I think it's important as we get into talking about, some of the deeper topics and stuff. I feel like if I'm sitting down with a stranger and they just start telling me about all of their junk, it's harder to receive that, because I'm like, I don't even know who you are. Like, why are you telling me all this stuff?
Well, and if you don't know the good and all you hear is the bad,
yeah.
how are you benefiting me if all you're giving me is all the crap you've walked through in your life? Because there's a lot of crap that we've walked through, but there's also so much good. And it's so easy to allow the negative to outweigh the good. And so I think this is great. I think this is sharing the good and sharing the start and sharing how we met. And I think in the next couple episodes we'll share about our kids and how that transpired. I'll tell you this. We got together. We got engaged really quick. We got married really quick. And we found out we were pregnant really quick. So if you don't know our story, buckle up, because there's a whole lot more to it.
Yeah. So I think on our next episode, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about kind of the next part of our story. And we may get into some deeper stuff on that episode too. And so I think this one was more of a fun episode about who we are and how we met. And
some laughs.
Hopefully it made you
Gotta
laugh
keep it
somewhere
light.
along the way. And
Because there's going to be some heavy
yeah.
episodes. So if we get too heavy, just remember, come back to episode 2. They laughed a bunch. They had good story shares. Yeah, because I think we could get into some really heavy stuff really quick, because our marriage has been a fight.
Yeah.
I think any marriage is, but there is definitely it was very evident, very quick. Things of my past, things that I had walked through, things that in your past, things that you had walked through, that we had both brought into our marriage. We had both come into this thinking, we got this. We love each other. Our relationship's perfect. All we need to know is that we love each other and we're good. But what we didn't realize was how much baggage we were both bringing into our marriage. And we were not prepared.
No.
We were not prepared. And so that's part of why we're doing this.
Yeah.
One, for those that are maybe just walking into it or about to walk into marriage, hopefully this gives you some tools to help you better prepare your marriage and your life. And for those that have been married for a super long time, who knows? We always still need new tools every so often. Put a new tool in your tool bag. So
yeah.
But this has been a good one. It's been fun.
Yeah. It's always nice to reminisce.
Yeah. And I'm excited to keep going and share more of our story and share more of what God has done.
Yeah.
You know, God brought us together. There's not a doubt in my mind about that. And he's been with us through every bit of it. Even when we weren't leaning into him, he was still right here.
Yeah. So join us next Friday at 5:00 for episode 3.
On the More Than Able podcast.
Yeah.
Talk to y'all later.
See you later.